The film begins with breathtaking views of the Dolomite mountain ranges, capturing climbers making their way up the steep terrain. We are then introduced to two friends, Kelly and Sophie, who are getting their gear ready for an early morning climb. As Kelly removes her locket, she pauses, lost in memories of a past climb with her late boyfriend. After a moment of reflection, she tucks the locket into her bag. Just then, the sound of a loud, rowdy Jeep pulling up outside catches their attention. 4 men spill out, making a commotion. One of the guys, Josh, immediately notices Sophie, and there's a mutual interest between them. A little later, he knocks on their cabin door, introducing himself with a flirty, over-the-top pickup line. He invites them to a party for drinks and fun, but Kelly isn't interested, and Sophie declines in agreement. Meanwhile, Josh's friends are discussing their climb. Zach mentions that the locals have warned them they're the only ones attempting it because the peak is already frozen over. They also call Josh out for flirting with Sophie, reminding him that he's engaged. Josh, however, brushes it off, showing signs of arrogance and disregard for his friends. Back at the cabin, Sophie persuades Kelly to loosen up and go out for a drink with the guys, promising they won't stay out too late. After some hesitation, Kelly reluctantly agrees. As night falls, the group sits around a bonfire. Sophie is lively and enjoys teasing Josh and the others, while Kelly remains reserved, sipping her drink quietly. At one point, Sophie pokes fun at Josh's oversized watch, and he boasts about it being a Ritmo Mundo Quantum Elite with a built-in locator beacon. He jokingly claims that with one push of a button, a team of elite rescuers would come to his aid. The conversation shifts to their climbing plans. When Sophie mentions that she and Kelly intend to ascend the mountain via the sheer rock face, the guys are stunned. Even more so when Sophie mocks them, implying they'd rather take an easier route. Feeling tired, Kelly decides to call it a night. But as she stands up, Josh suddenly grabs her arm, insisting she stay. Clearly uncomfortable, Kelly pulls away, and only after his friends step in does he finally let go. Once she's gone, Josh suggests they should all attempt the climb with the girls. Sophie laughs at the idea, saying they wouldn't have the guts to take on the sheer face. Back at the cabin, Kelly turns on her handheld camera and watches an old video of her late boyfriend, Luca. They talk about how he's climbed Antelo 5 times, while this will be Kelly's first. A flashback shows Kelly and Sophie at an indoor climbing gym where she first met Luca. Overcome with emotion, Kelly sheds a few tears before falling asleep. Outside, Sophie, now intoxicated, is making out with Josh. She stumbles away to relieve herself while Josh's friends urge him to back off, reminding him of his fiancée, Amy. But Josh scoffs, saying he won't be tied to one woman for the rest of his life. Ignoring their warnings, he follows Sophie into the darkness. When she returns, Josh corners her and tries to kiss her. Sophie resists, telling him to stop, but he forcefully persists, venting his frustration at being mocked earlier. Sophie screams, clawing at his face in defense. His friends hear the commotion and rush over, just in time to pull Josh off her. Terrified, Sophie takes off running while the group chases after her, not to help, but to silence her before she can report what happened. The pursuit takes a deadly turn when Josh shoves Sophie over the edge of a cliff. She crashes onto a rock below, her spine snapping on impact. Though gravely injured, she's still alive. Inside the cabin, Kelly stirs awake at the sound of distant noises. Sensing something is wrong, she steps outside and heads toward the campfire, only to find it abandoned. Meanwhile, the guys stand over Sophie as she begs for her life. Ray, one of the friends, considers calling for help, but Josh shuts him down. He argues that no one will believe it was an accident, not with Sophie's scratches on his face, Zach's bite marks, and the potential forensic evidence under her fingernails. Manipulating them with fear, Josh convinces the others that their only option is to finish the job. Before they can protest, he picks up a heavy rock and smashes Sophie's skull. To ensure everyone is implicated, he forces Zach to strike her as well and even smears Ray's hands with her blood. Josh then orders them to clean under her fingernails and push her body further down the cliff to stage it as an accident, claiming she was intoxicated and attempted to climb alone. Unbeknownst to them, Kelly had quietly approached and witnessed everything. Instinctively, she begins recording on her handheld camera. But as the horror unfolds before her, she gasps, loud enough for the group to hear. Their heads snap toward her. Josh spots the camera, and without hesitation, they rush toward her. Kelly bolts into the forest, desperate to escape as they split up to track her down. She manages to reach her cabin where she encounters Ree. Instead of stopping her, he hesitates, allowing her to grab her climbing gear and flee. Knowing the men aren't skilled climbers like she is, she makes a daring decision. She'll escape by ascending the sheer face of Antelo. As she begins her climb, the men close in. Taylor attempts to follow her up the rock face, but he struggles to keep up. Despite his efforts, Kelly fights back, landing a hard kick that sends him tumbling. He plummets, his legs snapping grotesquely upon impact, bone protruding through flesh, Josh, furious, vows to hunt Kelly down. Instead of getting Taylor medical attention, he shoves a handful of painkillers into his mouth and tells him to wait 24 hours for help. His only focus is recovering the camera, his last chance to erase the evidence that could destroy them all. As the remaining three prepare to pursue Kelly, she rummages through her bag, taking stock of what little equipment she has left. The battle for survival is just beginning. As Taylor struggled to reach her, Kelly's ropes had slipped away, leaving her without proper gear. But for her, this wasn't just a climb, it was a battle for survival, and she refused to back down. Meanwhile, down below, the guys stumbled upon Kelly's phone, which had fallen out as she ascended. Josh snatched it up, instructing his friend to keep getting ready before he rushed off toward the cabin. Ray and Zach sat talking, with Ray weighed down by guilt over their actions. Zach, however, reminded him that they had been friends since the 3rd grade and had once dealt with a bully who tormented Ray in a way they weren't proud of. He told Ray to quit second-guessing and stick to the plan. Growing impatient when Josh didn't return, Zach went after him and found him rushing out of the cabin. Together, they resumed their climb, setting their sights on Kelly, who was steadily making her way up the mountain. Kelly blocked out fear and exhaustion, focusing on Luca's words. Climbing was like chess, more about strategy than brute strength. Taking his advice to heart, she pulled out a map, carefully planning her next move before pressing forward. However, she wasn't alone. The men, equipped with superior gear, were gaining on her. As she climbed, a new danger slithered into view. A snake coiled over her hand. Her breath hitched, but she remained still, refusing to panic. Moments later, the snake moved on, and Kelly exhaled in relief. Her hands, raw and exposed without gloves, bore the brunt of the climb's toll. Needing a moment to hydrate, she reached for her water bottle, only to watch it slip from her grasp and tumble down the mountainside. Below, Josh spotted this and seized the opportunity to taunt her, making a show of drinking from his own bottle. His torment didn't stop there. He used her phone to send a request from her social media account and posted fake updates under her name. Kelly refused to let his cruelty shake her. She powdered her hands, reinforced her grip, and continued. Up ahead, she spotted a rope dangling from above, a potential shortcut to a higher hold. She reached for it but fell short. Thinking quickly, she pulled a wire from her bag's lining, using it to snag the rope. Recalling Luca's lessons on the maneuver, she executed it flawlessly. While she struggled against the raw mountain face, Josh and his crew took an easier, faster route, using their superior equipment to gain higher ground. Kelly, however, deliberately clung to the steepest sections, ensuring they couldn't easily reach her. Soon, she stumbled upon an abandoned tent, a small respite from her relentless climb. Above her, Josh and the others reached a ledge, effectively cutting off her ascent unless she risked crossing their path. Josh tossed a rope down, demanding that she tie the camera to it in exchange for safe passage. Kelly, however, wasn't foolish enough to believe him. Instead, she scrawled a note, attached it to the rope, and sent it up. Josh, infuriated by her defiance, yanked the rope back. With no other options, Kelly prepared to spend the night in the tent. Inside, she rummaged through its contents, finding a sharp object, which she discreetly pocketed. She made the best of her situation, securing the tent for shelter and finally allowing herself a moment of rest. As night fell, she reflected on a painful memory, one that had changed her life forever. A year earlier, she and her boyfriend had climbed this very mountain together. She hadn't known then that he had something special planned. In the midst of their ascent, he had surprised her with a proposal. The joy, however, was short-lived. A misstep sent him plummeting to his death, leaving Kelly to grapple with devastating grief. Back in the present, as Kelly tried to sleep, a sudden thud jolted her awake. A heavy bag of stones hurled down by Josh. She dodged just in time. But the night's dangers weren't over. Later, as exhaustion overtook her, Zach crept into the tent to seize her. Instinct kicked in. Kelly grabbed the knife she had taken earlier and stabbed him. A struggle sent them both tumbling, clinging desperately to the rope. Josh and Ree scrambled to pull them up. When Josh reached Kelly, he snatched her necklace, the one holding her ring. Seizing the moment, Kelly yanked the knife from Zach's side and sliced through the rope. She plummeted, but luck was on her side. She caught onto the remnants of the fallen tent, clinging to the rock face. Now her situation was even worse. Shelter was gone, and only sheer will stood between her and the freezing night. She still had her bag, and with it, the camera. But Josh had her phone, her necklace, and most terrifyingly, he now knew everything about her. Above, Zach, injured and desperate, demanded Josh call for help. Ree backed him up. Feigning agreement, Josh stepped away, pretending to make a call. As the three men settled in for the night, Zach grew suspicious. He was sure Josh never called for help. Earlier, when Josh had returned from the cabin, something had been off. Now Zach suspected the worst, that Josh had killed Taylor, eliminating any chance of outside contact. Determined to expose him, Zach and Ree plotted to trigger the locator beacon on Josh's watch. But before they could act, Josh's voice cut through the darkness. He was awake. No one slept easily that night. Later, Zach, struggling with pain, got up to relieve himself. But before he could react, Josh crept up, struck him hard, and shoved him off the cliff. Kelly, hidden in the shadows, watched in horror. Sometime later, Ray woke, noticing Zach was gone. He questioned Josh, who calmly lied, claiming he sent Zach to find Taylor. Still in the dark, Ray convinced Josh to let him talk to Kelly, believing he could get her to hand over the camera. Josh agreed. When Ray found Kelly, he offered her food and apologized. Then he proposed a deal. If she gave him the camera, he'd tell Josh she was dead, giving her a chance to escape. But Kelly refused. Instead, she revealed the truth. She had seen Josh kill Zach. Ray could believe her. Kelly pressed on, warning him that Josh would kill them both, no matter what. Despite his doubts, Ray took the camera back to Josh. Josh checked it and froze. There was no memory card. At the same time, Ray dialed Taylor's phone, hoping for contact. But the ringtone came from Josh's pocket. Realizing he'd been caught, Josh barely had time to react before Ray lunged at him. A brutal fight broke out, but Josh, stronger and more ruthless, gained the upper hand. He overpowered Ray and in a final horrific act set him on fire. Now only Kelly remained. Elsewhere on the mountain, Kelly spotted her knife just within reach. She carefully moved toward it, knowing she'd need it. As she gripped the weapon, a slithering snake caught her eye. An idea formed. Confident in his victory, Josh climbed down to finish the job. He demanded the memory card. Thinking fast, Kelly played along, telling him it was inside her bag, deep in a crevice. Eager to retrieve it, Josh reached in, only to jerk back in agony as the hidden snake bit him. Enraged, he attacked, but Kelly fought back with everything she had. A vicious struggle ensued on the mountain's edge. But in the end, Kelly gained the upper hand. Josh, weakened, clung to a crumbling rock, his strength fading. Seizing her chance, Kelly ripped her necklace from his grasp and pressed the distress signal on his watch. Josh's grip failed. He plummeted. Relief flooded Kelly. Her nightmare was finally over. She held onto the ring Luca had given her, along with the evidence of everything that had happened. Determined to finish what she started, she resumed her climb. As the sun rose, she reached the summit, the climb she and Luca had once dreamed of. In the distance, the sound of a helicopter signaled her rescue. And with that, the story came to an end.